Okay. So to start with, this is the quote that they put on the Facebook page and other places about this session. The one about chapter 2 is contemplative listening. And this quote from Rumi struck me as something that really inspired me, because it says, the inspiration you seek is already within you. Be silent and listen. And then this little prayer I want to start with from Bob Holmes. I come into the cave of my heart to listen in the silence, to soak in the stillness, and to pour out my heart until the waters run clear. And of course, there's the real familiar verse from Psalm 46, be still and know that I am God. And that's one that we'll think about a couple of times during this presentation, but I think this is it's a good one to keep in mind over time. So St. John of the Cross was first credited with saying, silence is the first language of God. And Thomas Keating went on to add, everything else is a poor translation. In order to understand this language, we must learn to be silent and to rest in God. The author of our book in this chapter on contemplative listening, the first wrote, one basic quality of the sacred art of listening is silence. So in this session, the focus will be on exploring the quality of silence. This is associated many times with contemplative listening. The original usage of the word contemplate meant to access a place of knowing, of simply being present. And now we think of contemplation as thinking about something, to try to understand or make sense of it. As we use the term contemplative listening, we revert back to the original meaning of the word. To listen in silence, listen beyond words. In many religious traditions, silence is important, such as the Quakers, who talk about it creating a space for God to work within. Silence is a key element to slow down and listen, to listen to God. When she was asked about her prayer life, Mother Teresa said that when she prays, she simply listens to God. And in turn, God listens too. Thomas Merton understood that silence serves as a place for truth found only in the heart. When I am alone and silent, he says, I sink into a deep peace, recollection, and happiness. The Benedictine monk, Brother David Stendhal Rast, says, without silence, there can be no listening. We need to renew our ancient friendship with silence. For Benedictines, silence is the pearl of great price. As we practice silence, we make room for others, since we have more space to actually listen. But maintaining a time of silence is difficult. Compounding this is our growing tolerance for noise and distraction, both internally and from the outside world. And the role of our culture plays a big part in this, of these distractions. Many of us are addicted to noise. Background noise of all types fill our days, whether in the store with piped in music, in our cars as we have the radio on, in our homes with the TV and other devices, or in traffic providing background noise, white noise. Those fill that void. From a book called How to Live by Judith Valente, which is based on St. Benedict's rule, she found this research. In 1968, researchers found that it took 15 hours of recorded time to obtain a single hour of undisturbed nature sounds, such as birds or rain or wind, without the man-made sounds intruding. Today, it may take up to 2,000 hours for that same hour of uninterrupted nature sounds. Isn't that shocking? Take a moment to think about how much background noise is part of your daily life. What is your tolerance for silence? Are there times when you want, need, crave silence? Are there times when you feel the need to fill the void with sounds? Here's a little haiku from the Japanese poet Basho. An old silent pond, into the pond a frog jumps, splash, silence again. Some of our concern with carving out time for silence, for contemplative listening, revolves around time itself. We are always in a hurry to complete the next thing on our list. Someone once claimed that they did not have any time for silence. Every second of his day was taken up with things to do. When asked if he slept at night, he said, "Well, of course I do." And so he was asked whether he was able to take the last minute or two before he fell asleep to practice intentional silence. He agreed to try. In a few weeks, he found that he could sleep better. Then he decided to try using the same method during the day, in the middle of his workday. And he discovered that he looked forward to those minutes and was more effective in his work. The value of silence has become clear to him. Any choice we make to be still and rest is genuinely a countercultural choice in our busy is better world. Once again, be still and know that I am God. We need to remember silence provides time for our souls to be present. It is in silence that we begin to know who we are. Contemplative listening is slowing down, being in silence, and listening to God. Laura Ingalls Wilder wrote, "We who live in quiet places have the opportunity to become acquainted with ourselves, to think our own thoughts, to live our lives in a way that is not possible for those keeping up with the crowd." During this week, you will have an opportunity to try one or two ways to begin to achieve that time of silence. Gandhi once said, "God speaks to us every day, only we don't know how to listen." Silent prayer can lead us from conversation to communion. It won't happen overnight, but gradually you will begin to feel the open space inside of you where you can listen to God, to yourself, and to others. And I don't know if you've ever seen this before, or realized it, but the letters in the word listen are the very same letters in the word silent. Think about that connection there. Listen, silent. We have to be silent in order to be able to listen. And Kierkegaard said, "I found I had less and less to say until finally I became silent and began to listen. I discovered in the silence the voice of God." One of Kay Lindahl's favorite books is The Gift from the Sea by Anne Morrow Lindbergh. And Miss Lindbergh was a mother of five, and the wife of a very famous pilot. And one summer she took off and spent some time by herself at the seashore. And Kay Lindahl quotes this in chapter 2 of her book. It's from this. chapter called Moonshell. We seem so frightened today of being alone that we never let it happen. Even if family and friends and movies should fail, there is still the radio or television to fill up the void. We who used to complain of loneliness need never be alone anymore. Even daydreaming was more creative than this. It demanded something of oneself and it fed the inner life. Now, instead of planting our solitude with our own dream blossoms, we choke the space with continuous music, chatter, and companionship in which we do not even listen. It is simply there to fill the vacuum. When the noise stops, there is no inner music to take its place. We must relearn to be alone, and I would add, to experience silence. So, what can we do to cultivate silence and listen to that wisdom? Well, here are some ideas or some thoughts from the book, Practicing the Sacred Art of Listening. First, notice how much noise there is in your life. External distractions. This awareness can lead to turning some of that noise off or just lowering the volume. Begin a daily practice of silence. Early in the morning, before bedtime, while driving, many times and places provide an opportunity to cultivate a time of silence. Begin with a few minutes and see how it feels. Take a brief time out during your day. These are ways to explore your inner life, to take time to listen to God, to slow down enough so you might hear what God is doing in your life. During your time of silence, you may notice your judging mind taking over or thoughts coming into your mind that you cannot stop. Just acknowledge them and let them go. Give yourself a time out to pause and recenter. Savor the moments of centeredness. Acknowledge them with gratitude. Silence can shift from something empty and lonely or something to be avoided to something rich and filled with life. Just have to try. We just have to step out and see what it can do for us. As we move into our breakout sessions, I want to focus on this poem. It's from a book that called Fragments of Your Ancient Name by Joyce Rupp. And the book is 365 days worth of little poems that focus on either a name that is used for God or a characteristic of God's. And this one is the listener. Here we find God as a listener as the author describes a time of prayer. Your ear, beloved listener, opened wide, pressed to each portion of my heart, my life, attuned to the slightest vibration of my being, attentive to the constant rhythms of my soul. You hear the cry in the throat of my heart. My troubles do not cease with your awareness, but they soften, loosen some of their grip, become bearable, touchable, endurable. If your attentive solicitude blesses so fully, surely I too can listen that closely to others. I listen to others as a listener does to me. So, in your breakout session, your facilitator will read the poem again to you, and then everybody will sit for a couple of minutes, and then you can unpack that experience and see how what thoughts or ideas came to your mind and how sitting for 2 minutes in silence felt to you. Okay. So Matt, I'm gonna stop this. Okay. So